Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and this evening we'll have a look at the latest from the GFS, the GM, the ECMWF, the GFS Ensembles, and we'll have a look at the UKMO Run as well. It is looking very stormy over the next week to 10 days. Beyond that, there are some signals for maybe high pressure building in, but at this stage it is very uncertain, and we're really going to be concentrating on the stormy weather we could be seeing coming up over the next 7 days, with the potential still of a very severe storm this weekend coming through, and it could be potentially be named in the next couple of days, and I do suspect there will be some weather warnings put in force. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and do remember to follow on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So if we do run through the latest from the GFS, you can see at the moment we do have cool polar maritime air mass moving through the country. It's been a chilly day, however, it has been bright and sunny where we have dodged the showers, but there have been many showers around, especially in the west. And then we do see another weather front move through by Thursday, bring in more heavy rain, and then we do see by Saturday this low pressure system, this little dig in the jet stream. If we do go to the United Kingdom, look, this really develops very quickly, this low pressure system through Sunday. There's sort of two centres of the low, and it's this secondary centre that's developing over the course of Wales, Northern England, down into sort of 970 millibar low pressure system. And by the time it gets up towards North East Scotland, sort of like 964 millibars, which is a very deep area of low pressure, and could be bringing you some very, very strong winds as it does develop as well. And we see the secondary low move through, and that's where we could be seeing a named storm potentially move through, if not some very severe conditions with yellow warnings potentially. Beyond that, more low pressure does continue moving through. Then we do see high pressure trying to build in around day 10. Now, in this scenario, we would actually bring in some quite warm weather, and we could even be calling this a Indian summer, with temperatures getting up potentially into the low 20s, maybe even mid 20s in a few spots. If we do get that really warm air up from Spain, it could be getting really quite hot. However, this is a minority within the options at the moment, within the main models. The longer term in the ensembles, there are some going for it. However, at this stage, it is uncertain. Beyond that, we do see the high pressure breakdown, and we do go back into a northwesterly airflow. Some quite chilly air coming down in from the Arctic, potentially turning things once again quite unsettled and cold. Now, if we do have a look at the GM, see how that does compare to the GFS, you can see once again very stormy over the next week or so. More low pressure systems moving through, and by this weekend, if we go to the United Kingdom, look, you can see this low developing throughout Saturday midday. Different track to the latest GFS. You can see 970 millibars centre across sort of Republic of Ireland, heading through Northern Ireland, and then it heads up towards Scotland. And that low gets down to sort of 960 millibars, very deep area of low pressure. So again, it will all depend on how this does deepen. Because if it is quite a slack low pressure system while it moves through the UK, then we won't be getting that too severe impacts. However, if it's rapidly developing over the top of the UK, that's where we can get some really gusty winds, some really heavy convective rainfall, and we could be seeing some severe conditions, if not this being a named storm. So we'll have to see what happens over the next day or two. I do suspect we will be seeing update from the Met Office, and we'll just have to see. Beyond that, though, it does turn a lot more unsettled once again. Or at least stays unsettled, let's just say. We do see a brief ridge of high pressure, but right towards day 10, we still have a lot of westerly winds with low pressure towards Iceland. Big mother low over towards Iceland, bringing in westerly winds. No sign of that Euro high building in. So, as I said, GFS, very uncertain at day 10. We'll have to keep an eye on what happens. So if we do have a look at the ECMWF, only goes up to 216 hours at the time of recording this, but that's still decent, as 240 is pretty unreliable. As we move through, you can see a lot of low pressure developing, and then by Sunday, that really deep low pressure system does develop to the north of Scotland. If we do go into the United Kingdom, we have to look at 850 HPA and temperature. You can see it rapidly develops, and by Sunday, sort of midday, it is off the north coast of Scotland and getting down to around 960 millibars, but it's still got a lot of strong winds heading across the UK. And across Scotland, especially coming in from the north and northwest, could still be some very severe conditions with that. And I do suspect at the moment the worst conditions will be overnight Saturday into Sunday. Beyond that, more low pressure tumbles in off the Atlantic. And right towards 216 hours, we're actually pulling in a chilly northerly wind. Potentially our first real northerly blast of the season. -5 line getting potentially to Scotland, and the -10 line is exiting Iceland. I doubt it will make its way to the UK, but still shows you with this sort of synoptic pattern we could still be seeing some reasonably chilly weather. So if we do now have a look at the GFS Ensemble, see how those do compare. You can see over the next sort of week, we're quite up and down with temperatures. You can see over the next few days, reasonably dry in London, however, big precipitation at times. And then you see towards the weekend, you see a big uptick in temperature and then a big drop, and that's symbolic of the warmer and colder sectors, and a massive spike of rainfall, getting up to between 5 and 10 millimetres for the average, some even getting a lot higher than that, as that potentially named storm does move through. And all the way up to around 7th, 8th of October, so the next sort of 10 days or so, a lot of precipitation around, cooler than average temperatures, but you can see in the longer term we do have a rise in temperatures. I'd say about a third to maybe half of ensemble members are going for this warmer scenario, similar to the GFS Operational Run, with lower precipitation potentially bringing in that high pressure. Now, the GM, the ECMWF, didn't touch on this at all, but again, they could be outlier runs as well. So we do have to always take these things with a pinch of salt, and at this stage, there is a decent chance, not guaranteed, but something we do need to keep an eye on. If we do have a look at the sea level pressure, you can see the big low pressure moving through this weekend. The average now is around 990 millibars. Some areas a bit deeper than that, some areas a little bit higher than that. And of course, these are every 6 hours. So between these, it could deepen further. So we'll have to keep an eye on what happens, of course. With that, if we do go to Glasgow, as it does look like this storm potentially will have a sort of southwest northeast track, you can see very low pressure this weekend. Average around 976 millibars for a good sort of 12 hours or so. And again, as I said, it could be lower than that, as again, these are 6-hour intervals. Within that interval, there could be lower pressure levels. So yeah, very deep low pressure system moving through. Could be a named storm, and I do suspect, regardless if it does get named, there will be some severe impacts. I do suspect we will see some yellow warnings be put in force by the UK Met Office over the next 24 or 48 hours. In the longer term, we do see a rise in pressure, but again, nothing too significant, and still a lot of up and down. If we do finally have a look at the 850 HPA and precipitation, you can see temperatures are below average for the next 10 days, and then they rise above average. But again, it all really is up in the air. You can see the operational run is quite a big outlier for Glasgow, so it does show that that big high pressure giving warm air even to the north is quite unlikely. However, for London, holding on to the far southeast is a more likely scenario, and again, we'll have to see what happens with that high pressure, but it still looks very, very unsettled over the next 10 days. Could be some issues, could be some flood warnings being put in force by the environmental agency, so do stay tuned for that if that does happen. And as you can see, we've got repeated rainfall spikes of 10, 20 millimetres potentially, which is an inch or so. Could easily fall within each of these rain bands moving through over the next week or so. So do keep an eye on the weather warnings, and do stay safe if you do get affected by this. If we do finally have a look at the UK Met Office run, we'll first go through the precipitation, then we'll have a look at wind speed and temperatures. So you can see heavy rain spreading through early tomorrow morning. Again, mainly in the north, there could be some heavier rain in there as well, and then just heavy showers coming in behind, and then through Friday, more heavy rain spreading in. Just a lot of showers around, and then as we head through Saturday night, you see that big low pressure developing in the south, rapidly deepening, big wall of rain heading up from the southwest, and then it does spread in through the northeast, and eventually does spiral away, and we stay unsettled. Now, if we do have a look at the wind gusts, which will be interesting to see, wind gusts do get up over the next sort of 24 hours, potentially 40-50 mile an hour winds across the west coast, and then beyond that, we do see generally wind gusts not too big before that storm eventually does head up from the southwest, and we do see some very strong winds potentially across the south coast, 70-80 mile an hour, widely 40-50 mile an hour inland. And again, on this latest UK Met Office run, does stay a little bit further offshore, but you can see we've looked at this over the last few days, and it has varied quite substantially between run, so we will have to keep an eye on how it does narrow down. If we finally have a look at the max temperatures, you can see overnight tonight, pretty chilly, but there is warmer air coming from the southwest accompanied by that rain. and you can see temperatures getting up to around 14-15 degrees widely, so still quite chilly tomorrow. By Friday afternoon, temperatures are looking, once again, maybe only 14-15 degrees, and even cooler across Scotland, only 4 or 5 degrees. And then by Saturday afternoon, potentially still pretty chilly. Across the south coast, some warmer air coming in, accompanied by that potentially named storm, but still not particularly warm, and it still is looking really quite autumnal and chilly. So anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you do stay safe out there if you do get impacted by any of the wind and rain coming up over the next week or so. And I'll see you again for another video soon.